The United States slaps sanctions on 2 top officials from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Kenya launches the world's first child-friendly tuberculosis drug. And we'll tell you how low-tech solar tents are boosting Malawi's dried fish industry. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Githo-Ewart. Vincent Makori is off today. This is Africa 54. We'll have those stories in a moment, but first, we begin with breaking news in the eastern United States. At least 1 person has been reported dead, and up to 100 were injured in a commuter train crash in Hoboken, New Jersey. The train crashed through a barrier into a rail station during the Thursday morning rush hour, causing major damage. Hoboken City spokesman Yuan Meli told VOA the train derailed and plowed through the platform. Rail service has been suspended in and out of Hoboken, which is located 11 kilometers outside New York City. According to media reports, all trapped people have been rescued from the mangled train. The cause of the crash has not been determined. Several witnesses say the train did not slow down as it was approaching the station. For the continuing updates on this story, visit voanews.com. The United States has imposed sanctions Wednesday on 2 close aides to Democratic Republic of Congo President Joseph Kabila for undermining democracy and violently suppressing free speech and human rights. The action by the U.S. Treasury Department ramps up the pressure on President Joseph Kabila to hold an election for his successor in November. President Kabila's government says that the November election must be postponed because of logistical problems. The 2 officials named are Major General Gabriel Amisi Kumba, a military commander, and former Police Inspector General John Numbi, who is one of Kabila's most senior advisors. U.S. assets belonging to the 2 men are frozen, and U.S. citizens are barred from doing business with them. U.S. officials say Numbi threatened to kill opposition candidates who refused to drop out of local elections in March, and they accuse Kumba of leading a military unit that used violence and excessive force against political protesters. Winnie Madikizela Mandela, the former wife of Nelson Mandela, says South Africa's ruling African National Congress Party needs new leadership after the organization lost control of the country's 3 main urban centers to the opposition Democratic Alliance during recent municipal elections. Now many are wondering what the future holds for the party. VOA's Heidi Adams-Fitzpatrick has our report.
Africa's oldest liberation movement has always enjoyed the loyalty of the vast majority of South Africans. The party of Nelson Mandela ended white rule and delivered freedom to the country's black majority. In last month's municipal elections, those loyalties shifted. The ANC suffered its worst election defeat since the fall of racial apartheid 22 years ago, triggering widespread discontent even among its own party activists.
The lives were lost for the ANC to be where it is today, and we cannot afford to see it die down, die a slow death in the manner in which it is.
We would like them to recall, in fact, we demand that they recall the President of the Republic as an ANC employee, as well as NEC members to resign.
While some rank-and-file ANC members want President Jacob Zuma sacked, many senior party members still back him. Political analyst Justice Malala says Mr. Zuma is so firmly entrenched, it's unlikely he'll be ousted before the end of his term.
The way the ANC works is that, you have its conferences and so forth. But at the very top, between the 5-yearly conference, there is only the National Executive Committee of the ANC. Those are the people who make the decision. The president goes, we recall him, or the president stays. At the moment, it's unlikely that President Zuma will leave because about between 60% and 75% of the people in that National Executive Committee depend directly on President Zuma for their monthly paycheck, for their livelihood, and for their business interests to continue to flourish.
Zuma is facing 783 charges of corruption in an arms procurement probe. But he's known for his ability to avoid prosecution and retaining his grip on power, despite growing disappointment that he has not delivered on the ANC's promise of a better life for all. Malala says for the party to stay relevant, it should focus less on protecting Zuma and more squarely on governance.
For the future, for the ANC to reinvent itself, it would need to say to the people who've given it support since 1994 that it is going back to being the organization whose values were embodied by Nelson Mandela. So it will have to, one, ditch its current leader, Jacob Zuma. It will have to show that it's serious about fighting corruption. And it will have to show that it wants to implement the pro-poor policies that it's always spoken about and has sort of implemented, but in a very half-hearted manner, while people have been looting, essentially, the state coffers.
The ANC may be losing its hold on the cities, but it still has strong support in rural areas, including Zuma's home region of KwaZulu-Natal.
The ANC gives us employment opportunities. That's why I voted for the ANC.
This thing of ANC will die. The ANC will never die. And we're going to continue voting the ANC because we understand the principles.
This year's municipal elections have set the stage for an even bigger showdown in 2019, when the forces of discontent could shape the ANC's overwhelming control of Parliament and the presidency. Heidi Adams-Fitzpatrick, VOA News.
Schoolgirls in Malawi are learning what to do if someone tries to attack them. A Kenyan NGO started the training in response to a recent study that showed 1 in 5 girls under the age of 18 in Malawi has been sexually assaulted. Lamek Masina tells us more.
This is not a martial arts class, but these girls are learning how to defend themselves.
The curriculum involves both verbal and physical skills. With the physical skills, it's used only if it's the last and best option. So, meaning to say, we use mainly the verbal skills, which is how to use their voices to end assaults.
The girls learn to shout for help or pretend they see someone coming to fool their attacker. They also learn techniques to disable the attacker so they can run for safety. Instructors from the charity Ujama Pamoja Africa have been conducting these weekly 2-hour lessons at schools in 7 districts around Malawi.
At the end of the year, we'd like to reduce the incidences of rape. We'd also like to promote education by reducing early marriages, school dropouts, and also early pregnancies.
The UN Children's Fund is financing the program. So far, 25,000 girls have taken part. Teachers say Ujama interventions have removed some of the stigma around sexual assault.
In the past, girls were not reporting it, but now they are indeed empowered to report abuses. Some are reporting the incidents to us teachers, and others to their parents for action.
And some girls say they have already had to use their skills.
My uncle ordered me to lie on his bed. When I asked why, he started touching my body. I told him to stop and that I will report him to police or my mother if he continues. After hearing this, he ordered me out of his room.
The Ujama project is also teaching boys about respecting girls and teaching them how to intervene if they see a girl being assaulted. Funds permitting, project organizers say they want to extend the self-defense program to students nationwide. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Salima, Malawi.
In the battle for the White House, Republican Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton are campaigning Thursday in the states where each won their first victory on the path to becoming the next U.S. president. Trump campaigned Wednesday in Chicago, where he spoke before an organization of Polish Americans. He pledged if he is elected, America would be a true friend to Poland. He also compared his campaign to the so-called Brexit vote, in which British voters elected to leave the European Union.
And now they're calling me Mr. Brexit. Because in a way, we're very similar to what happened over there. We want our independence back. We want our freedom back. We don't want to take people into our country that we don't want. We don't want to take people into our country that possibly have very bad intentions.
Clinton campaigned Wednesday in New Hampshire alongside Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, her one-time rival in the Democratic Party race, telling a crowd of students that the outcome of the election will reverberate for decades.
The next 40 days will determine the next 40 years. So I'm going to close my campaign the way I started my public service and my career, fighting for kids and families. That's been the cause of my life, and it will be the mission of my presidency.
Trump has an event in New Hampshire Thursday, and Clinton is speaking in Iowa, states that played a big role as the first two to hold votes during the party nominating process that began 8 months ago, but which will have much less influence on the outcome of the November 8 general election. The reason is the electoral college system that gives more weight in the presidential vote to more popular states such as Michigan, where Trump will be on Friday, and Florida, where Clinton's Friday schedule includes 2 rallies. Michigan carries 16 electoral college votes and Florida 29, while Iowa and New Hampshire have 10 combined. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, Kenya launches the first ever child-friendly TB medicine. Stay with us.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're going to get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
And it's time now for our health report. And joining us now is Hedy Adams-Fitzpatrick, standing in for Lino Mudu. Hedy, you have some good news to report on tuberculosis in East Africa, right?
That's right, Esther. Thank you. For once, some good news. Yes, the world's first drug specifically designed to treat tuberculosis in children has been launched in Kenya. The improved medication will be available nationwide and free of charge. TB is preventable and curable, but the World Health Organization says it infected 1 million children worldwide and killed 140,000 in 2014. Kenya's health ministry recorded 7,000 cases of TB in children and infants last year alone. Medical experts say the move will improve children's TB survival rates. Until now, health workers have had to cut up bitter-tasting pills to get the right doses for kids. Experts say this has contributed to treatment failure and death in children. The new medicine dissolves in water and tastes sweet. It also comes in popular flavors like strawberry. In other health news, the sooner a stroke victim is treated, the better the chances are for recovery. A new study assesses that time frame and identifies a device that can restore blood flow to the brain faster for a better outcome. VOA's Carol Pearson has more.
Researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles have found that the sooner patients with severe strokes get blood clots removed from a major artery, the better their odds of recovery. And doctors have a tool to open the arteries faster. It's called a thrombectomy device. Blood clots in major arteries cause blood to stop flowing to the brain, and without a blood supply, the brain cells begin to die. When treating a stroke, time is of the essence.
It's critically important for patients to recognize the warning signs of stroke, get to the hospital as soon as possible, and for doctors, nurses, and health systems to then rapidly treat patients when they arrive.
Dr. Jeffrey Saver from UCLA looked at the outcomes of more than 1,000 patients who had an acute ischemic stroke, in which a clot forms in a large artery. Saver and other researchers conducted clinical trials involving these patients, and they found that a thrombectomy, along with clot-busting drugs, greatly improved the odds for both survival and recovery.
If you get the artery open at 3 hours, then 65% of patients will be able to live independently 3 months later. If it takes 8 hours to get it open, then only 45% will be able to live independently. It makes a major difference in outcome.
With stroke being the second leading cause of death worldwide and the third leading cause of disability, this study could change the way stroke is treated, especially now that doctors know how little time they have to help patients make the best recovery. The study was published in JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association. Carol Pearson, VOA News, Washington.
And that is our health report for today. It's back to you, Esther. Thanks, Hedy. Look for Africa 54's health report every Tuesday and Thursday for the latest health news on the continent. Now, poultry farming. Now to poultry farming, which is a big business in Ethiopia, and it's growing at a staggering pace. The private company, Ethio Chicken, is leading the way, creating opportunities in this vast and potentially lucrative market by increasing production more than 30-fold among poultry farmers. Here's VOA's Paul Ndiho.
Founded nearly 6 years ago, Ethio Chicken has since expanded into 4 regions in Ethiopia, with the production centers nationwide reaching farmers in small communities. The company developed innovative, economically viable models that reach rural households. David Ellis is the CEO of Ethio Chicken.
Our vision is to reach 1 chicken per person per year in Ethiopia by 2020. And what we do is we sell better breeds of chicken to smallholders in Ethiopia in order for them to achieve more food security, earn more money, and also empower women, because women are the ones typically keeping chickens at the rural level. And we do this through a network of agents where we hatch day-old chicks, produce feed, and then we sell a full package of inputs to agents who raise the chickens for 45 days, and then they sell them onward to smallholder farmers.
Ellis says Ethiopia was an attractive country for them because the poultry market is experiencing a boom as a result of its rapid population and economic growth.
Africa is getting wealthier. As people get wealthier, they consume more protein. Chicken is the cheapest, most efficient source of animal protein, so chicken in Africa is an obvious growth opportunity. The question is how to penetrate that market.
Ethio Chicken has partnered with Feed the Future, partnering for innovation FinTruck, a Washington, D.C.-based USAID-funded program that helps the private sector to scale and market agriculture technologies for smallholder farmers through investing in technology commercialization. Robert Robaski is the director of FinTruck.
We partnered with Ethio Chicken through a competitive process, and we've run to date 6 of these competitive processes where we put out calls for proposal. And David and his company submitted a proposal. We evaluated that along with probably 50 or 60 other proposals. It became shortlisted. It was a high-quality proposal, and so we determined that it was eligible for consideration for funding. We went out and visited David and his operation, conducted due diligence, and developed the program that way.
Brenna McKay, technology commercialization lead at FinTruck, says the program invests in public-private partnerships that make agricultural products commercially available to smallholder farmers.
Feed the Future Partnering for Innovation was designed really to engage private sector companies that have game-changing technologies in agriculture. And our program incentivizes these companies who may not already be in smallholder markets by giving them a grant as the initial investment to prove the value proposition in the smallholder market.
Despite the success of Ethio Chicken, David Ellis says running a poultry technology company in Ethiopia has its challenges.
In our industry, disease is the biggest threat. You know, that if the chickens get sick, we'll be in a big problem. There's also lack of a poultry industry where, it's not easy to get the talented workforce, people with 5-10 years of experience doing this, so a lot of training is required.
Industry analysts say Ethio chicken has the potential to be very successful, and the profits farmers generate will allow their families to buy food and pay for school fees and other medical costs. Paul Liho, VOA News, Washington.
In the western United States, a California 3D printing company hopes to revolutionize the way many things are manufactured, from car parts to medical devices. Instead of using standard injection molding to make products, the Carbon 3D company uses light and oxygen to shape objects. VOA's Deborah Block reports.
This is what 3D printing looks like today. Complex shapes that look like they are growing out of a pool of goop. The Carbon 3D company hopes M1, its first commercial 3D printer, will create products as durable as those made from injection molding. Carbon uses what it calls a clip printer.
One of the interesting side benefits of controlling both light and oxygen together is, instead of going step by step by step and printing really slowly, these parts emerge from the liquid almost as if they're alive.
The Silicon Valley startup uses different varieties of polymer resin, a kind of plastic. Heat-resistant hard resins are used for exterior automotive parts, while soft elastic biodegradable resins are for making medical devices like a heart stent, a tube that's used to repair weak or narrow arteries.
We should be able to say, what does that heart look like? What are its mechanical properties? And how do I then print in real time on the cath table a stent that fits you, performs the way that your heart wants to perform? That's going to happen.
Carbon's 3D printer uses software that controls a photochemical process, balancing how ultraviolet light and oxygen react in a pool of resin. The light hardens the resin, while oxygen keeps it in a liquid form. With more oxygen at the bottom of the pool, the object takes shape and hardens. Carbon has raised more than $220 million in funding from top venture capital firms like Google Ventures. It has also partnered with giant companies like Ford, BMW, and Johnson & Johnson to move the innovative technology forward. Carbon says it can print up to 100 times faster than other 3D companies.
So you can imagine, if we give them a great on-demand manufacturing tool, it's not just the product that changes, it's the business that changes.
And that business could change everything about the way products are made. Deborah Block, VOA News, Washington.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, how a long-tech solution helps save an industry in Malawi. We'll be right back.
qalbiyadana dhexdooda laakiin ka maamul ahaan waxaan maalin soo qaadnay qobra biil
Credible evidence that chemical weapons attacks have taken place. We have received photographs and video evidence.
Welcome back. Here's what's trending. After 40 years of China's one-child policy, infertility is still very much a private subject in the country, but women are beginning to speak out and seek help. Infertility has long been considered an unspeakable embarrassment for women, even among friends, parents and family members. But more and more women are looking to have a second child many years after first giving birth. They're seeking fertility treatment like IVF. Other families are opting for traditional Chinese medicine. Beijing's Dongjing Min Hospital has seen a 30% increase in the number of women seeking fertility treatment. Picture your next car with no switches, no gears, just screens. Under the tagline Think New, Volkswagen has unveiled the ID, a compact car the company claims is part of a new generation of electric cars controlled entirely through touchscreen. VW says it's looking towards a future that is both electric and fully connected. The car is due to launch in 2020. The company hopes to sell 1 million electric cars by 2025. If you're interested, it will cost you the price of a Golf diesel. So there's plenty of time to save up. And that is what's trending.
Now, fishing is a way of life for people who live along the lakes in the southeast African country of Malawi. Various means are employed to dry the fish for market. But since the catch is dried outside in the open, about half of it decays. Now, a solar tent has been introduced that better preserves the fish and dries them more efficiently. VOA's Deborah Block takes us to Lake Chilwa, Malawi's second largest lake.
This simple solar tent is helping fishing communities along Lake Chilwa dry and preserve more fish, making them ready for market. The tent is made from plastic that is stretched over a wooden frame.
When we collect fish from the lake, we dry them inside this solar fish dryer, and it does not take long to dry because it is so hot.
Dried fish is the primary source of protein in Malawi. Traditionally, fish are dried using other means, such as frying, smoking, or placing them on wire racks. But by using these methods, the fish can rot during the drying process and get eaten by animals. The solar tent protects the fish.
Normally, they would take 1.5 to 2 days to dry. In here, they will put it in the morning. By the evening, they would be taking the fish out.
The solar tents have also helped the fish traders get higher prices at market for cleaner and better quality fish. The solar tents are sponsored by Cultivate Africa's Future, a joint Australian and Canadian project that works to combat hunger. For fish traders who want to continue smoking their fish, the organization encourages using energy-saving kilns rather than open fires. This helps the environment because fewer trees will need to be cut down.
We are using very little wood, and it takes a short time to smoke lots of fish.
Solar tents are also being used by fishermen at Lake Malawi, the third largest lake in Africa. Deborah Block, VOA News, Washington.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune into VOA's evening radio show, African News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and good night from Washington.
Voice of America today is a window in which we have to see delivering the messages for contacting the people wherever they are. And Albanian people, as people of a small country, need to have such and deserve to have such information from the United States and from all around the world. So it's a bridge. Voice of America, it's a bridge between entire world and Albanian citizens.